Hey guys, welcome back to another video here on Toned In Entertainment, where we love pop culture. Today, it's time for another comic book series review. Now, what happens when you combine, let's just say, two of pop culture's most disgusting franchises into one series? Will it be some good, gross out fun? Or will you come to the realization that your mom was always right when she said you weren't allowed to play with either of these franchises? Well, the only way to find out is in my comic book series review of Madballs versus the Garbage Pail Kids. As we kick off issue number 1, we're going to see that there's a main story as well as a secondary story, and this will continue in each and every issue. Now for this, I'm going to go over every story and give you one final verdict at the end. As issue 1 kicks off, we meet a lovely family called the Snobs, made up of Dad Ted, Mom Tina, and kids Tucker and Tiffany. While the kids aren't excited, at least at first, about their relocation, Ted is, because not only is this a fresh start in a beautiful house, but being the amazing businessman he is, he got one heck of a deal. And let's face it, once they tear down those ugly 2 abandoned houses that bookmark him, his property value will surely go through the roof. Well, maybe not, because we are going to find out that one of the houses is not abandoned after all, and it's being occupied by the Madballs. Now, if you guessed that the news was only going to get worse for Ted, well, you definitely be correct, because we're going to find out that the house on the other side of him is being occupied by the Garbage Pail Kids. We're going to meet several characters from both franchises, and we do find out, even though they have many similarities, the Madballs and the Garbage Pail Kids, well, they don't see eye to eye on anything. Now, at the end of this story, Ted and Tina are going to come to the conclusion that their dream home might just be a lemon. Now, as far as Tucker and Tiffany, while they had their reservations at first, they do see the bright side of what this neighborhood has to offer. Now, the second story in this issue is called Ridiculously Extreme Sports, and we're going to find out what would happen if sports were contested under the rules that the Garbage Pail Kids and the Madballs make up. From whitewater rafting to baseball, skateboarding, and my personal favorite, extreme go fish, there's just a lot of fun moments to be had here, with no real winner being declared. Only the two sides learning a lesson that extreme sports might just in fact be dangerous after all. Now, we are under the impression that the two sides despise each other, but we're going to see that Madball, Hornhead, and Garbage Pail Kid, Scary Carrie, might be breaking that tradition. Now, having a good neighbor is certainly a wonderful thing, but what happens when you have a neighbor, or in this case, neighbors, that think that you would enjoy their music as much as they do? Well, that's going to lead us to the story called Band Slammed. In this story, we're going to learn that even if you don't have hands, if you just use your head, you can rock out. And the Madballs do just that, and they rock out really hard. Now, there will be some common ground here between the Snobs and the Garbage Pail Kids, as they believe the Madballs' music that they are producing is just trash. While Tina is relieved, at least temporarily, that they might have found an ally in this particular situation, her moment of happiness will quickly fade away when all this will end up doing is just creating more noise as a battle of the bands breaks out. The music will definitely have concert goers drooling over the tunes that lead to an explosive finale that will lead to what the Garbage Pail Kids and Madballs could only describe as peace and harmony. Throughout this story, we'll also continue to see Hornhead and Scary Carrie become closer, but still have to find ways to blend in as to not raise any suspicions between the two camps. Now, there is another secondary story here in issue number 2 called Mad Science. The story here, while short, is an entertaining and fun one, as it takes place at a school science fair. Now, both the Garbage Pail Kids and the Madballs have some really creative projects that would surely win almost any competition. However, the fact that none of them are still standing, or the fact that they didn't stick around, will have Tucker and Tiffany winning the science fair by default. Now as we dive here into issue number 3, we have 2 stories once again, and we're going to kick it off with the story called Blockbusted. Summertime cookouts are an American pastime, and when you have good friends and good neighbors to share this with, well, it can make it all the better. But when Tim realizes that his neighbor Roy has invited both the Madballs and the Garbage Pail kids to the picnic, not only will Tim find himself in the middle of a food fight, but he'll be wishing he might have focused a little more on his athletic skills when Kim Kong wants to play. Overall, this is a fun and wacky story where the art by Jason Crosby really tells the story. Now once again, even in the middle of all this chaos, we'll continue to see the bond between Hornhead and Scary Carrie continue to grow stronger. Now the secondary story here in issue number 3 is called Disorder in the Court. Now a common complaint in court cases would be causing a public nuisance, but in this world, the Garbage Pail Kids and the Madballs are in court for the purpose of removing a public nuisance. Now growing up, I remember watching an episode of The Three Stooges where they were in court and the judge would say, "Order in the court," and I believe it was Curly that would go ahead and order some food. Now over the years, I believe this joke has been used many times. So when I saw this story, I saw this joke coming a mile away. Now while the Garbage Pail Kid does go on to order some food, writer Sholly Fitch does a great job of having the judge saying, "And no more old jokes either." While this is a fairly quick read, there are plenty of antics, eyewitnesses, puns, and objections that will have this judge wanting the only court she wants to see being the food court. Now while both sides continue to object with one another, the only two that won't object will be Hornhead and Scary Carrie. Now as we head into the 4th and final issue of this series, not only are we going to meet some new friends here in this issue, but we're also going to get some insight as to why these two sides have decided to be enemies instead of friends. We start off with a story called Family Feud, where the Garbage Pail Kids are coming from dumpsters and landfills from all around the country for the big family reunion. Now of course, you probably guessed it, the Madballs have the exact same idea. Now while once again this sounds like a nightmare for the snobs, when some information comes to light to Ted and Tina that letting the cat out of the bag that Hornhead and Scary Carrie are becoming the best of friends, this just might be what they need to stop all this chaos from ensuing. Now I did say this issue was called Family Feud, and we do have some awesome guests arriving from both parties, as we'll see Rundown Rhonda, Double Heather, Electric Bill, and Mona Loser from the Garbage Pail Kids side, and from the Madballs we'll see Wolf Breath, Snakebait, Swinesucker, Brain Bash, and Fist Face. Now as far as why these two sides never got along in the first place, well thankfully we have Brainy Jane here to break it all down for us, that it goes back to an interaction between Wrinkled Rita and one of the Madballs. That it was one day while she was out walking her dog, she tried to be friendly, but the Madball, being all high and mighty, just ignored her, and they've been feuding ever since. Now while Tucker and Tiffany will try to be peacemakers between the two sides, when Ted and Tina drop the atom bomb that Hornhead and Scary Carrie are friends, let's just say that both the Garbage Pail Kids and the Madballs are gonna feel backstabbed. Now the final story here in this issue is going to wrap everything up for us, and it's called More Family Feud. Now this blow up between the two sides appears to be a dream come true for Ted and Tina, because both sides are going to compete on who's going to move away first, as to not let either side be a bad influence to their family. Now one of the main reasons these two would probably never see eye to eye is because they each believe that the other is just trying to copy them. But Tucker and Tiffany are going to tell them that's not the case. But in reality, they should be friends because they do have so much in common, and that's why it always comes off as one side trying to copy the other. Now as far as where the whole feud started from in the first place, it appears that it was just one big misunderstanding, because the Madball that Wrinkled Rita was trying to have a conversation with, well, he was a lockup and he couldn't talk even if he wanted to. And just with that simple revelation, not only will both sides come to the conclusion that yes, they can be friends, but also the family members who had just come from the party now see this as an amazing place to be and just might be sticking around for quite some time. Now on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm gonna give the comic book series Madballs versus the Garbage Pail Kids a 9 out of 10. The creators really did an exceptional job of blending these two franchises together and just really providing a lot of laughs and a very entertaining story. Plus, I also like the fact that they had an opportunity to play off the old Garbage Pail Kids trading cards, where they would have two names, and that's included here with Scary Carrie and Creepy Carol. Now, in addition to the fun story and the really great artwork, there's also some puzzles and games thrown in here, and it's just the icing on the cake of a really fun series that I definitely recommend. Alright guys, well that's going to wrap up my comic book series review of Madballs versus Garbage Pail Kids. Now I want to hear your stories about these two franchises. Were you fans of either of them? Did you collect either of these franchises? For me, the Garbage Pail Kids was something I was able to collect. Now my mom, she wouldn't let me have either one of these franchises, I think for pretty obvious reasons, but the Garbage Pail Kids, they were kind of easy to sneak in there because I was a baseball card and football card collector, so I could always go into a store, pick up a couple packs of cards, you know, throw 1 or 2 packs of Garbage Pail Kids in there and have some Garbage Pail Kid fun. Plus they were easier to trade with your friends. Now as far as the Madballs goes, I never owned one of them. That was a lot hard sneaking those out of the toy store than a pack of Garbage Pail Kids cards. You know, I would just had to leave with Thundercats or Ninja Turtles. I know, what a hard life, right? But either way, I always thought they were really cool and I really did dig this comic book series. And guys, if you haven't read the series, it's available on Comixology, and actually the prices of issue number 1, 2, and 3, at least when I bought them, were reduced to like under $2 an issue, so it's a pretty reasonable and affordable read. So if you like either of these franchises, I don't think you have to be a fan of both of them or be knowledgeable in either of them really. There's just a lot of fun. The creators do a really good job of just explaining everything and telling just a really fun and interesting story. So if you are a fan of either or both of these franchises, they're a must check out. You'll have a lot of fun. And if you don't know much about either of these franchises, there's still just some really good humor to be had here. Alright guys, if you like comic book reviews like this and all things pop culture, make sure you stay tuned in here to Toned In Entertainment for future videos.
Subscribe to the channel. Do it. Go now. Do it now.